Hello everybody, it's Jess here from Meadows Flowers. So for those of you who haven't seen any of my videos before, I run an artisan, so fairly small scale, cut flower farm, and I also have a florist studio here in mid Staffordshire. So my most popular video to date has been where I chatted through what my essential kit was for cut flowers and sort of creating with cut flowers. So what I thought I'd do today is chat you through my essential kit for floristry. So what do you really need to get started with? Yeah, let's have a little work through it. What I'll do, any of the products that I mentioned that have got links, I'll pop the links in the commentary as well, so you've got all those to refer back to. So first thing you're going to need as a florist, you need to protect your clothes. So you always want to make sure that you're wearing sort of closed toe shoes. So good stout pair of boots or shoes, because you will be handling knives, you will be handling scissors and other sharp objects, and we're all going to drop a pair of scissors on our toes at some point, aren't we? Especially me. So next thing you really need is an apron. So this is my favourite apron. This is a wax canvas and leather apron from Cotswold Hipster. Absolutely love it. This is my posh apron. So this is the apron I use at my workshops, or if I'm doing events, farmers markets, things like that. It's very on brand for me here at Meadows Flowers. But when I'm working away in the flower studio, I love these. These are just a really simple cotton apron from Lucy and Yak. So if you've never heard of Lucy and Yak, I live in their dungarees. I also live in their dresses, and I think they're absolutely fabulous. So these are actually made from their waste fabric from their dungarees and their other clothing. They're really quite cheap, they're cost effective, and you can chuck them in the washing machine. So as a starter apron, and they come in loads of colours, get yourself a Lucy and Yak apron. Get yourself a Cotswold Hipster for posh. Then the one thing I would not be without is my tool roll. Now, I don't actually know where this came from, because my husband got it me for Christmas last year, but it has been an absolute lifesaver. It's a heavy duty wax cotton tool roll. I think it's designed for men to put spanners in or something, but it's absolutely brilliant because it keeps everything safe and secure. It ties up, I can throw it in my bag, throw it in the car. I know everything's going to be where I left it when I get to where I'm going, and it stops me stabbing myself when I put my hand in my bag. So let's have a little work through the tool roll, and I'll let you know what I've got as we move along. So these are my essentials. So these are from Niwaki, and they look the most silly thing ever. They look very girly, they look very pink, and you think they'd be useless. These are an absolute essential for floristry. They are so sturdy, they are so strong, they will chomp their way through the thickest of stems. Might struggle with big branches, but we'll get onto that in a minute. But get yourself a pair of these bad boys. Come in a range of colours. Obviously, I quite like pink, so mine are pink. But they're from Niwaki. Next thing, pair of florist scissors. So these are common company, Oasis. Everyone's heard of Oasis. But these are a pair of Oasis scissors. They do a couple of different types. I like these ones because they've got like a little wire cutter just in the base here. So when you're cutting and trimming anything with wire in it, they mean you're not blunting the end of your scissors. These are my go-to for cutting paper, cutting string, general light use work where I don't want to use my snips or shears. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them online. If you're lucky enough to have a florist's wholesaler account, you'll pick them up for dirt cheap at your florist wholesaler. Get yourself a good pair of scissors. Next, and this is my essentials I take with me all the time, pair of secateurs. Oh, they need it clean. But these are from Spear & Jackson. I think they're the Bergen and Ball make. Again, they're pink, but these are a brilliant bypass secateur. So when I'm foraging for foliage, cutting branches, and certainly if I'm doing a hand tan, I've got some really meaty stuff to cut through, I wouldn't be without these. And the best thing about these, you can close them one-handed. So if I'm out picking in the garden, I can just close them on my thigh, on anything. Really, really useful. So next, Same make, Spear and Jackson, but equal pair of snips. So these are really fine, pointy little blade. They're quite good if you want to just get in and do some detailing. So if you want to cut something down a little bit, or if you've got really delicate stems, so things like sweet peas, these are really good. Not an essential, and nice to have, but they came as part of a Pretty Pink set. So I had the pair of them, because I like that. Next thing you're going to need, and this is why you need sensible shoes on, is a florist's knife. So you can get really big florist knife. I tend to just use, again, the Oasis cheap florist knives. Come in packs of 5 from the wholesaler, come singly from the likes of Amazon. They're meant to be disposable. I have an excellent husband. He can sharpen this. So he will sharpen it for me several times. This one, as you can see, the blade is starting to go a little bit, so I'm getting ready for a new one, but they are dirt cheap. That's why you want a nice tool roll to keep everything safely tucked in, because you don't want to be grabbing that. And then the other 2 little bits of my tool roll are just useful if I'm doing really intricate design. So if I'm doing something like a pave design, which is where we're sort of cutting and doing really geometric shapes, little pair of deadheading snips. Again, brilliant for sweet peas, absolutely fabulous. Equal tiny pair of tweezers, and again, from doing gluing work, so for weddings, if I'm sort of gluing a nice corsage, sort of gluing beads on, these are brilliant for handling because I make a mess and I'll get glue all over me. But little tiny cheap pair of tweezers as well, excellent. So let's put the tool roll away. As you'll notice, the pink scissors don't fit in my tool roll, but that's fine. So just fold it over and literally tighten a knot. There we go. So I've got my apron, I've got my tool roll. What do we need to think about next? Well, when we pick our flowers, pick them or buy them from the supermarket, the first thing you're going to want to do is give them a blooming good drink. So what you'll need is something to put your flowers in. So a bucket. So this is a proper florist conditioning bucket. Any old black bucket will do, but really you want something quite narrow and tall, so you're holding your stems nice and upright. Now I'm going to do a whole video soon on how to condition flowers properly, because if you get your conditioning right, your flowers will last double the amount of time as if not. Again, you can get these online. They come in a variety of size, shapes, depending on what you want to spend. If you're very lucky and you've got a Morrison's or other supermarkets are available that have got a flower section, if you ask them very nicely, they might give you these or let you have some dirt cheap. Next thing, something to clean your vessels with. So I'll have a look at vases and things in a minute, but whatever you use needs to be scrupulously cleaned. Certainly bacteria is the enemy of everything in floristry. So you can just use a bit of bleach, bit of dilute bleach. If you can get the Chrysal bucket cleaner, it's not very eco-friendly, but it is absolutely brilliant stuff. Certainly if you've got a vase, the flowers have been in for ages, water's gone a bit manky, this will degrease, it will clean, decontaminate your bucket, takes no doing at all. It's worth investing in. So, if we think about when we do a bouquet, what else are you going to need? We're going to need something to tie our bouquet with, whether it's just a simple wrapped bouquet or whether it's a more elaborate hand tie in an aqua pack and presented in a lovely, gorgeous box. So, there's 2 main things we can use to tie off with. There is jute twine, really really eco-friendly because it's completely sustainable, completely decomposes, composts down. It can be a little bit tricky if you're not used to it, and you can snap it. So if you're not used to tying off a bouquet, it's not the easiest stuff to learn with, but it's cheap and it's worth practicing with. However, what I teach people to use when I do my bouquet workshops here is I teach people to start with by using this what's called binding twine. So it's like a paper wrap, but it's got a metal wire core to it. So it's really, really sturdy. It stays where you put it. It holds knots really well, and you can't snap it. So it's a little bit more expensive. It's not as sustainable because it's got a wire cord to it, but for learning with and practicing with, it's worth its weight in gold, it really is. So if we're doing a bouquet, we've managed to tie it off, and coming up will be loads of videos and tutorials on how we do all these sorts of things. The simplest thing to do with the bouquet is just put some wrap around it. So easiest, cheapest option, just get yourself some brown craft paper. Again, Amazon is your friend. If you start getting into it, you can really start to get the really beautiful proper paper wrap. So I like to keep mine quite natural, so I tend to go for the grey stripe or just a plain. Not a big fan of lots of fancy coloured wraps because my style is fairly soft and loose and open and quite natural style. So I tend to stick with that, but again, it's really cost effective. Next thing we need to have a little think about is vessels. So again, there's a video going to be coming up, guys, all about vessels. So vases, different styles of vases, other things you can use that maybe you don't think are a vase, but we can use as a vase. Lots of things we can do. So a couple of ideas of when we think about vases or vessels. Classic one is your vase. Apologise, this is actually not that clean. If you need to buy one vase in your life, buy this one. It's called a hand tie vase. They're dirt cheap and it is the perfect shape for putting an arrangement in because it's got a nice narrow waist and a wider lid. Absolute cheap as chips. Get a hand tie vase, seriously, do it. But then if we're looking at other things, we can just get the little simple plastic pot trays. Again, Amazon, florist wholesaler, really, really cheap. And would you be using these for arrangements, for table centres, things like that. Other thing we can put flowers in is we can use these lovely little test tubes. So these are really useful if we're doing more intricate arrangements and we're working with flowers that really like to be in proper water. So these are ideal for sort of cymbidium orchids, things like that, because we fill the little tube with water and it's got a rubber bung at the top with a hole on it. And so we can actually wire these into an arrangement, almost make them into a bouquet if we needed, fully in water at all times. So, done our vessels, we've done our pots. What we then need, if we're doing an actual arrangement rather than a vase arrangement, and even if we're doing a vase arrangement, we need some mechanics. So, again, I can do an entire video on mechanics and how to use them, but to give you some ideas of ways that we can hold things in an arrangement, hold things in a vase. Mechanics is literally that, it's structure. It's a structure we put into our vase or our vessel to allow us to place the flowers where we want to. So, my favourite and the most eco-friendly is a pin frog. Again, these are from Niwaki. I have a whole set of these and they are like a little bed of nails. They're a little, really, really heavy. I can't tell you how heavy this is. Metal disc with a rubber base and pins. And so if you're doing a arrangement, say in a pumpkin, say in a vase, certainly an enclosed vase, you can just drop this in and then you can use this to place your main flower stems in. Now it does tend to slide about a bit, even though it's got a rubber base. So what we would use is a little bit of fix. So again, Oasis brand, but Florist's Fix. So it looks just like blue tack. It's green. It's not blue tack because it's waterproof. So it's incredibly sticky. A lot of my vessels end up with all sorts of bits of fix stuck to them, but incredibly useful. You don't need a lot of it, so I've had this roll for a few years now. I am getting down it, but there's still plenty on there. So we can use our pin frog, a little bit of fix to hold it in place. Next thing we can use some chicken wire. This is Posh Florist's chicken wire because it's made out of copper and therefore it's really malleable and really easy to bend into shape to hold our flowers in. You can just use chicken wire from out the back of the shed if you want. Doesn't really make any difference. That's a bit nicer to work with, and if I can, I try and use that. And it's not expensive, it's a few pounds, quite a decent sized roll. next thing for mechanics is we can also use tape. So we have what's called pot tape, comes in different thicknesses. So pot tape, again, is a waterproof, really sticky tape. Great for using on little oasis pots, great for using on vases for holding stuff in place. Haven't got any of that. Just good old sellotape is your friend. Works really, really well. So we've done tape, we've done fix, we've done pinfold, we've done chicken wire. The classic thing we can arrange into, obviously, is what everybody knows as oasis. Now, we should refer to this as floral foam because it is what it is. The problem with floral foam, and the reason we dare but try not to use it, is that it is actually made from plastic. So it is forms lots of micro particulate plastics. It doesn't biodegrade. It is completely non-sustainable. The benefit of floral foam is it's really easy to learn in. So if I'm teaching an arrangement workshop, I will teach in floral foam, I'm afraid, just because it's so much easier than trying to use moss and chicken wire and other things that are just more difficult to get your flowers to stay where you want to. There is a version of Oasis that's called Bio Oasis, so biodegradable, can't get words out today, can I? The problem with that is it's not compostable. So everyone thinks that Oasis Bio can be lobbed on the compost heap complete with the flowers in it. It can't. It is biodegradable in the way that biodegradable plastic carrier bags will degrade over time, but it is not compostable. So 6 2/3, I don't think it's got that much benefits. It's eco replacement, and I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of this at all, is agro wool. So it's like a basalt wool, looks just like the stuff you'll stick in your cavity walls for insulation. Again, it's basalt based, it's mineral based. Again, it's slightly more sustainable because it does technically biodegrade. It's not compostable, and I know because I lob some on the compost heap, but it's still there a year later. So it's a lot more difficult to get your flowers in. It's tricky to work with. Up to you. I'm not that fond of it. So that's our eco bits. So we're nearly there, guys. Trust me, we are really nearly there. Last little bits that we just maybe need to think about are other tape. So this is called Stemtex. So it looks just like the pot tape, but it's not. This is matte and it's really, really stretchy. So this is your essential for doing wired work. So for buttonholes, corsages, hair adornments, all those sorts of things. It's stretchy and it's what you tape your stems with to keep them nice and clean. Again, doesn't biodegrade, but you don't use much of it. I will do a video on how we use that as well because it just takes a little bit of getting used to. And then the last things that really are essential to have in your kit are wire. Much as we'd like not to have to use wire, we use wire. So there's two sorts of wire that you need to get your head around to start with. There's lots of other ones, but the two essential ones are real wire or binding wire and stub wires. So stub wires are what we use for buttonholes, for wiring. You would use big ones for doing a wired bride bouquet. You would keep the weight down, so we cut all those stems off, replace them with some wire. Come in lots and lots of different sizes, thicknesses. You can order them online, but be aware, unless you exactly know which gauge wire you need, it's really difficult to know. I bought these and they're very delicate and they're very, very fine. So these are a 28 gauge. They're really unsuitable for the finest of flowers, hence why I've got shed loads of them left. But anyway, and then the last wire, which we're in October, Christmas is coming. We're coming up towards wreath time of year. Binding wire is what we use to hold our moss onto our copper wire wreath rings. So again, probably do a video of how we moss up because it's a bit of a dirty job, it's a horrible job, it's a cold, miserable job that you have to do outside, you make a mess and it's not a lot of fun. Everyone wants to go to a wreath workshop and learn how to make a wreath. The bit we don't get to do is the horrible dirty job at the start. So we use loads of this real wire because it holds all the moss tightly onto your wreath ring and helps you make a beautiful wreath for Christmas. So just thought that's just a few of the bits and pieces that I have in my kit. If you could actually see my office at the moment, because as I said, my floristry studio is not up yet, hence I'm in the kitchen again, you would not believe the amount of kit that I have. It's one of those, like any job, when you start doing the more you start doing, the more stuff you start to acquire. But really, to get going, absolute essentials I would say are a good apron, something to put your tools in, they're not going to stab yourself, definitely good pair of scissors, good pair of secateurs, and a Oasis knife. Essentials would be something for mechanics for a vase, either some chicken wire or pin frogs, bit of Oasis fix, definitely then some pot tape, because you'll use pot tape all the time when we're using chicken wire, and some vessels. So they would be my absolute essentials. As always, I'll pop links to anything I've discussed in the chat. Be interesting to hear your comments, see what you think, see if you've got any other suggestions of stuff that you really like. But as always, I'm Jess from Meadows Flowers. We are a little artisan cut flower farm and florist studio in mid Staffordshire. And if you like what you see, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of all my other upcoming videos, because I'll get plenty more out over the next few months. Anyway, have a nice day, everybody. Bye bye.